While everybody's arguing on X about which crypto community is better, I want to remind you guys that there are still even bigger loser skeptics of crypto outside of the ecosystem, and I'm going to hop over to the only cesspool debatably worse than Twitter, which is Reddit. And just for fun, we're going to read some of the skeptics and some of these losers who spend all their days online talking about why Bitcoin will never work. They even made their own little subreddit called Buttcoin. Isn't that cute? So these people, they sit on the internet all day and they try to cope with why the price of Bitcoin went from $1 to $100,000 and why they missed out on it. But hey, at least they were right. At least they get to be right to their little internet buddies and get little internet points. So we're going to read it because it's kind of entertaining. And all people's, differences really come down to is that they just don't believe versus people that do believe. And all the value it's based off of is people's belief in it. But people just make up these stories to themselves to limit them or block them from understanding what I think is a huge opportunity. Not Bitcoin. You guys know I like pulsechain.com. But people just say the same things over and over at different scales at different times. Bitcoin's been around for 15 years, so I thought it would be funny to highlight just how obviously wrong these people are if they can't admit to themselves that Bitcoin staring them in the face is $100,000 today, yet they still think it's going to collapse. And yes, it does. It crashes 80%. Bitcoin is a series of bubbles that always lands a little bit higher than the previous cycle. Ethereum is this way. A lot of us want Pulse Chain to get that epic pump as well. These all follow a cyclical pattern. But can you believe that there's a subreddit just for people to gossip and talk shit about crypto? I guess it's not surprising. So let's see what these really cool and bright and educated guys have to say. This one says, Warren Buffett has a good analogy about Bitcoin. If you owned all the farmland or apartments in the world, you would be a trillionaire. If you owned all the Bitcoin in the world, Bitcoin's value would drop to zero. What? Okay, so if you owned all the Bitcoin in the world, it would just magically fall to zero. Nobody can own all the Bitcoin in the world because it's already distributed among people. And you would have zero additional net worth as it doesn't produce anything. Why? Stupid. It's just a dumb way of thinking. Of course it doesn't produce anything. It doesn't need to. The use case of crypto is censorship resistance and peer-to-peer money. The fact that I can send you any amount of money from anywhere in the world without getting shut off by a corrupt middleman or institution. The Federal Reserve is corrupt. Crypto fixes it. It's better money. Fix the money, fix the world. But this guy, he's doing an appeal to authority. It's like, oh, well, Warren Buffett doesn't like Bitcoin. Well, yeah, he's fucking 80 years old, 90 years old. He doesn't need to understand Bitcoin, okay? And when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So Buffett's a stock guy, so he's looking at everything like a company, and his brain is probably trying to process Bitcoin as a company. Yeah, of course, it's not a company that produces goods and services, so you can't value it that way. But what does gold produce? Some tiny fraction of gold is used for industrial purposes. The majority of gold is used to speculate. Bitcoin is used to speculate, to store value, and to transfer value without censorship, with no middlemen. That's enough. That's actually more than enough. The fact that Bitcoin went from $1 to $100,000 is more than enough. And the fact that you could send it anywhere in the world is even better. Now, does Bitcoin even have the most price potential? No, newer stuff does. Ethereum has more potential than Bitcoin. Pulse Chain has more potential than Ethereum. But let's see what else this guy is illogically thinking about. So if somebody magically owned all the farmland, which they wouldn't, or owned all the Bitcoin, which they can't, Bitcoin's value would drop to zero. That really doesn't make sense. Why would Bitcoin's value drop to zero if somebody owned all of it? Would he dump it to himself? So if we want to sit around and do mental masturbation of these hypothetical scenarios about some guy owning all the farmland and some guy owning all the Bitcoin, which is impossible, if you can't find anything better to do with your time, let's see all the sad, pathetic comments. Probably circle jerking with this guy on Reddit. Sailor says, what? I think this is where we're headed. Ownership gets concentrated. Yeah, of course, ownership is concentrated. And then the bottom falls out. So ownership gets concentrated. And because ownership is concentrated, the price goes down. The price is going to go down in Bitcoin, okay? The price is going to go down probably 50 or 60% at least in the future at the end of the cycle, like it always does. But if something goes up 10,000x and it falls 90%, it's still up 1,000x. Okay? These things go up so high that even when they fall 90%, a lot of times they land higher than when they started. Ownership really has nothing to do with it. Okay, so now BlackRock owns like 6% of all the Bitcoin. A couple of the richest guys in the world own 1% apiece. China owns 1%, the USA owns 1%. Ownership's already concentrated. And here's another crazy concept that the more broke you are, the more self-victimizing you are, the less likely you are to understand that richer people don't need to sell as much. They can take out loans against their assets. That's what Elon Musk does. Does he have to dump all of his Tesla stock? No, he takes out a tax-free loan and like he buys stuff with that. As much as I don't like that BlackRock owns 6% of Bitcoin, they're probably not going to be the ones dumping. They're making trading fees off the ETFs. It's the retail plebs, the emotional dumb money that dumps every single time. That's what you have to worry about. Institutions, they know about delayed gratification. They got to where they are because they buy and hold for longer than anyone else. And then they get to do all the other tricks, like borrowing against their money. I digress. You're saying, what if all the rich guys dump all their Bitcoin at the same time? What if Elon Musk dumps all of his Tesla shares at the same time? So just a bunch of sad losers kind of sitting around and saying what if, while not realizing that they're missing out on the highest appreciating asset class of all time. And that's okay. I'm just telling you, I think Reddit's a funny place because people really like to mental masturbate on here. Like they do it for these internet points because they got nothing better to do. And the real winners are the ones that are not on Reddit, buying Bitcoin, starting businesses, investing, and taking the risk. Well, people like this deter other poor souls from actually being open-minded to invest because they pretend like they know it all. And they're already wrong. It's like the funny part about all this stuff on Bitcoin is that Bitcoin's 15 years old. It's going to be around for a lot longer than that. It's $100,000. And it started at 1 penny. So the amount of wrong these guys are, it's so unfathomable that I think it's one big cope party. And they're just more nonsense. Well, no shit, if you owned all the Bitcoins, people who need crypto will just buy any of its unlimited alts, hype the hell out of them, and you have a new Bitcoin overnight. It doesn't matter as people believe what they want to believe, and if they have bought it, they don't want to hear anything that's not positive about it, no matter what proof you give them. They will only listen once it drops, when threads asking questions about the real value start popping. And then once it drops and people actually buy the dip, those guys get to get rich again. So they're just sideline speculators saying, well, just wait till the price goes down, then I'll be right. Cool. And then more people will load up their bags and then rinse repeat, like we've been doing for the last 15 years. Don't worry, all these fools will get a rude awakening soon. Oh no. Mr. Anonymous Internet Guy on Reddit. And this guy says correct. They will suck everyone in first, of course. Smug Wojak. Insert smug Wojak. In a way, this guy's right. That's how all the bubbles work. Crypto is a series of bubbles, just like the stock market. Bubbles pop, people buy the dip, people FOMO buy because they see other people buying. So yeah, everyone will get sucked in at the top, and then the weak hands, the emotional money that won't understand that crypto's here to stay, they're going to sell and they're going to create a dip. And wow, ground-shattering realization, guy on the internet figures out people buy and sell, and that's how markets work. Good job, guys. Good job, our Buttcoin. Here's another one. Buttcoiner single-handedly saved his Reddit from becoming an echo chamber. Somebody says, amazing strength in equities. Bitcoin price action is shit. Okay. This was 1 day ago. So I guess the guy missed the part where Bitcoin went from $15,000 to $100,000. I guess doing over a 5x in price is shit for this guy. But hey, great job on your 10% gain in equities. Watch out, you're going to get downvoted if you say anything negative about Bitcoin in here. Yes, that's all true, but if none of us express even mild skepticism, then it will become a useless echo chamber of Bitcoin cheerleading. So it's up to us to be skeptical, because we're saving everybody. Good job. Good job, you Reddit keyboard warrior. And I guess there's something wrong with Bitcoin cheerleading. Yeah, people buy stuff, and then they talk about and cheerlead for the stuff that they buy because they want other people to buy. Why do people say nice things about Tesla or Amazon? They want their stocks to go up. Everybody wants the numbers to go up. And the only thing sadder than making a post on our Buttcoin is probably commenting on a post in our Buttcoin. These comments are honestly just giving me cancer. I don't want to even entertain that. Let's go to a new criticism of Michael Saylor. Okay, this one says, Michael Saylor is full of crap. And I'm not the biggest fan of Saylor. Look, I think his business investing strategy is dangerous. But let's just see what this genius has to say. All of his super bright intakes on our Buttcoin. Only the best of the best for you guys. I'm not going to read his long technical comments because you don't care. This guy thinks he understands the Byzantine general's problem. He doesn't. But you don't care about it either. So I don't even want to take the time. And I haven't even watched the Saylor video. But here he says, another major lie. Gold can't be diluted. I guess he's never heard of mining gold. Yeah, if you mine gold, you make more gold and the value can be diluted, just like when you mine Bitcoin. And yeah, gold is not this perfect store of value. Not sure why he's saying gold can't be diluted. And obviously the value is mostly speculative anyway. So the demand, the perceived demand, is just manufactured in the imagined reality. All of this stuff is a shared fiction, okay? My belief that Pulse Chain is $0.00004 is a reality that is shared with the rest of the market because buyers and sellers agree on that price. So if you're just a guy that's getting cucked by everybody having fun in the crypto market and you say, well, it has no value, it's diluted. Well, yeah, great. You get to be right and you don't get to make any of the money in crypto. Bitcoin can't be confiscated. This is actually false. I do agree with this guy. Bitcoin can be confiscated. It has been confiscated, and people can go and steal your private keys. But if you don't tell people about your private keys, if you don't do illegal things that might cause the government to come and try to seize all your stuff, well, that's not really the biggest problem for most people. Don't do illegal stuff. And even if you do, I mean, theoretically, do a better job of hiding your private keys or something. He talks about Michael Saylor implying disclosure of ownership, paying his taxes, because Michael Saylor is a tax-abiding citizen, I'm sure. Of course he would say that. Why would he want to say he's not paying taxes? I guess Michael Saylor doesn't know that his cult followers are mostly anarchists and don't want that. Weird thing to say. I mean, cult followers has a very negative frame there, but hey, you know what? Some of them are anarchists, I'm sure. But such a very small fraction of the world is anarchists, and a very small fraction of crypto is therefore also anarchists. Now, yes, crypto is a smaller percentage of people, so there's probably a slightly larger proportion as a whole of anarchists in crypto versus anarchists in the world at large. However, being an actual anarchist is a pretty rare thing, and I think most crypto users are pretty... Gonna go out on a limb here and say the majority of crypto holders are not full-on anarchists. So that's a weird generalization there. And I don't even know his point. Saylor pays taxes, but some people that follow him don't want to pay taxes. Is that supposed to be a gotcha? I don't understand. His next insightful comment at 2145 is absolutely horrible asset because it has zero intrinsic value. Yeah, this is the part that I think a lot of people struggle with. Zero intrinsic value to that guy, but $100,000 of intrinsic value to the market. That's what the market's paying for a Bitcoin. Yeah, the market's paying $2,500 for an Ethereum right now. So that's the intrinsic value. It doesn't need to do something. People get really caught up in the fact that, oh, Bitcoin has to be like a company. It's not. It's just an asset. It kind of behaves more like a commodity. It only is worth what people are willing to pay for it. And the primary feature that people use it for is storing value and censorship resistance. And if you don't find that valuable, maybe you have no use for Bitcoin. Maybe you don't like buying stuff where you have potential for the number to go up really, really high. That's okay. He keeps talking about history without discussing the intrinsic value and how important it is for the long term. All right, this guy has an obsession with intrinsic value. Two people can disagree about the value, but as long as the markets, the rest of the world, comes to terms that something has a value, that's what the value is, whether you like it or not. It's heavy copium vibes. Heavy cope over here. Here's a bunch of word salad. Let me get to a more digestible point. I guess he's trying to refute the point that Bitcoin will go back up because of adoption. More people adopting it means more people putting their money in it. So yeah, that's what makes the number go up. 4 years later and no one uses it for payments. This is true. It's a valid criticism of Bitcoin. We've got a lot of stable coins and layer 2s and things that can and will be used for payments. I mean, I guess he ignored like the Visa, MasterCard news. Stripe is now accepting it. PayPal is now accepting it. But whatever. Yeah, Bitcoin is old. I agree. Bitcoin's outdated. I prefer Pulse Chain. I prefer Ethereum. And I will say, this Reddit dork is right. No one uses Bitcoin for payments, even though that's what the white paper said. But like I just mentioned, store value and censorship resistance is more than okay for a lot of the Bitcoiners. Everybody just wants to get rich. All right. Even after it has passed some regulations and completely legal to use it for payments, there's no incentive to use it over fiat currencies. Sure. Maybe this guy's also never heard of stablecoins. Hey, for all I know, this guy might just be an Ethereum guy, and we actually maybe agree on more than... maybe I agree with this guy on more than I disagree with him on. Bitcoin is really hard and slow. It takes 10 minutes to confirm, the transaction fees are high, it's very infeasible for payments, nobody's really using the Lightning Network. We've got layer twos on Ethereum, and we've got Ethereum itself, and the fees are going to get cheaper over time. So a lot of people also pretend that technology never gets better over time. A lot of people pretend that Bitcoin was the end all be all. We've got proof of stake now, which works just fine. It's all socially enforced at the end of the day. So whether or not there's a bug in Bitcoin or a bug in Ethereum, there was in both. And people fork the code and they make new versions, and the technology gets better. We don't live in a vacuum where things never get better. So yeah, people probably won't be using Bitcoin to transact for payments, but they're going to be using stable coins like they already are. Probably be using Ethereum, maybe Pulse Chain in the future. It really is just a matter of adoption. I don't even know if he's disagreeing about adoption here. The number goes up because of adoption. People using it for payments actually makes the price go down. Because when you pay with Bitcoin, people then sell the Bitcoin to store their dollars on their ledger in USD. Most companies have to accept crypto and then dump it. So payments doesn't even make the price go up. It gets adoption because people want the number to go up. It's adopted on speculation. No one's trying to use it for payments. And if they were, that would be negative sell pressure, probably. In 3 to 5 years, it will certainly replace gold. Well, that is Sailor being very optimistic, speaking in absolutes, but I don't think that's unreasonable. This guy seems to think it's unrealistically optimistic. It kind of already has. You could say Bitcoin is kind of already replaced. It's the new store of value. Just look at what's happening. All the institutions are gobbling it up, making ETFs. It's getting more trading volume and more record numbers of inflows than any other commodity to join the markets in the last 100 or so years. One major elephant in the room is market cap. Oh, I love this one. Market cap, where people invent imaginary glass ceilings for themselves with arbitrary numbers. Oh, look, I actually do agree with this guy. It's completely imaginary. Market cap is imaginary because we can never actually know how much Bitcoin was permanently lost from dead holders or those who simply don't have access. Okay, sure. A lot of Bitcoin was lost. Weird that you would try to say that that's why it can't replace gold because a lot of people lost their Bitcoin. What? So I agree that there's actually probably a very high percentage of Bitcoin that's been lost. The early days of Bitcoin and Ethereum and any coin, a lot of people didn't take it seriously. So they might have mined thousands of Bitcoin. And there's an estimated maybe 1 to 3 million Bitcoin that's just lost because people in the early days, it was worthless for like a year. People probably had hard drives that they lost. One guy's trying to dig up his house to go find his old Bitcoin hard drive. You hear about him on the news. And okay, there's all these dead people and all these people that lost it. But why does that affect its ability to replace gold as a digital store of value? Doesn't relate at all. He ignores another elephant in the room, the USA, buying and trading for the purpose of paying off debt to the retail suckers. So you're a sucker if you buy something and you want the price to go up. Yes. It brings in more centralization of assets and easily manipulates the price and trust if it wants to. Yeah, I agree that Bitcoin is more easily manipulatable once you have paper trading and you can do derivatives and longs and shorts and you can start to pump it or dump it with printed money. You can manipulate it more. But one of the things that people don't realize is that the government doesn't want to crash Bitcoin to zero. I mean, if Bitcoin's a legitimized asset, it's just one more thing on their balance sheet. When people have financial incentives that are aligned financial incentives cause a scenario where nobody wants to ruin the game. Nobody wants to nuke the price. Could the government do terrible things to Bitcoin? Yeah, they could make Bitcoin really hard to use. They could really castrate Bitcoin if they wanted to. But why not just own a whole bunch of it? Why not just make a bunch of trading fees on it? Why not just use it as assets to borrow more money? Like, the incentives are aligned such that everybody's greed in this scenario is beneficial to the future adoption of Bitcoin and also crypto as a whole. Trump has plans to buy 5% of it recently. Okay, wow, this guy read a headline on the news and blindly believed it. Buying 5% of Bitcoin is pretty hard, especially for Trump's private company. I don't even think that's possible. That's so much money. Like, you're saying Trump's going to buy more Bitcoin than BlackRock? Okay, Trump says a lot of crazy stuff. But let's say, imagine if he buys 100K and dumps it at 200K. Oh my God, what if somebody buys it and then the price goes up and then they sell it? Wow, what a concept. And he starts doing this every 4 years. What, he starts dumping? Like, so you think people that didn't buy Bitcoin early are just dumping it the whole entire time? Some people bought Bitcoin in 2013 and have done nothing but dump it for the last 12 years. But what if Trump does it? What if Trump buys it and then he sells it higher? Oh my gosh. Another imaginary horrible situation. We should all be so scared we should all just not even touch it because some people might buy and sell it. There will be no incentive to buy Bitcoin in the end. You will be essentially buying and paying off American debt. Well, okay. Is paying off American debt the worst thing in the world? This guy's really conflating a lot of weird stuff. And then at the end, he kind of admits that he's an idiot. He says, I'm sure that there's much more to it, but I am not savvy enough. Indeed, you are not savvy enough. That's why you're here for the internet points on a Reddit forum. Dorks everywhere. So if you think it's bad in Pulse Chain or on crypto Twitter with everybody beefing with each other, just remember, you could always be on our Buttcoin. You could always be one of these guys. Be an optimist. Work for your bags. Misery loves company. So if you want to hang out with the loser, broke pessimists on our Buttcoin or on Twitter or wherever you might be, you're free to live your life how you want to. Crypto's going to keep going up. More people are going to adopt it. It's an endless bubble. Call it a Ponzi if you want. It's going to happen with or without you, just like it has been for the last 15 years. Hopefully, you can buy so that you're not coping like this entire subreddit. If you found this interesting, like, subscribe, share the video, leave a comment. I'll see you on the next one. Enjoy your weekend, everybody.